Good day and welcome back to another DB Legends video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the blue Super Saiyan Legends Limited or Legends Limited Super Saiyan Vegito Blue. And why are we looking at Vegito Blue? Well, because he got his new unique equip. Now his unique equip is a big component as to why he could potentially be entering in to the meta once again. However, he is a very old unit, and it takes sometimes a lot more than even these platinum equips to really bring these guys back up to speed. It is difficult to bring some of these super older units back into the meta. That's not to say it's impossible. That's not to say we can't get it done. But it is just me saying that be aware that it's very likely he won't be a top 5 or top 10 unit, but I do think there's scope that it could have made him relevant. So obviously the big thing about this equip is the third slot, but we'll talk about the equip before we specifically talk about Vegito. So the equip, obviously huge stat boosts. We're talking big health, big strike defense, big blast defense. We're talking big inflicted damage, big strike damage, big blast attack, and depending on how many god key units you have, some big strike arts damage and blast arts damage as well. One thing that is obviously important is also the third slot. Now this is where I think they could have gone a little bit crazier. The third slot is traditionally on these unique equips where characters will get their big upgrade. Essentially they're like minor passives or smaller passives that characters can have, that a lot of them will essentially need or require to get back into the meta. So they don't exist in the meta, then they get these passives, and essentially they get revamped as a character, or at least to some extent. A great example is Broly, who gets a damage inflicted buff and health up, and Zamasu, who gained a health recovery mechanic when his health got below a certain threshold. Vegito gets increased art card draw speed and also nullification to enemies cover change when he enters the battlefield. This is pretty good. And when he lands a strike hit, he also manages to defeat the enemy as well, or restore ki by 50%. That's really it. It's not the craziest amount. And the reason why I say this is, Vegito is old. Like, even raw stats aside, he's just old. He's just missing a lot of key components and a lot of things that units now in the meta have. Like, there's so many different methods of health recovery. If you look at units that thrive on health recovery, there are a ton of units that not only just thrive on health recovery, but essentially every unit is just there to, get this big health recovery mechanic. And a lot of the times being able to draw yourself back from that 10%, 20%, 30% health thresholds is super duper important for a lot of units. Plus we have revive units now, recover from 0 units. There's a lot of just different mechanics that one can have to kind of bring themselves back up to speed. Vegito on his own doesn't really have anything that I would say strictly screams to me that he is, insane with this equip. It definitely helps him. I think that is, not a debate. Like, it definitely helps him. I think if you have like a fully maxed, fully, arts boosted, red star Vegito, and he's got this, I think he could look good. But even with his Zenkai, like, he's got 30% damage reduction for 15 timer counts, and then that flat 10% damage reduction. So you got 45% damage reduction, and that's only for like the first 15 timer counts of battle. That's it. So he still has a very squishy kind of problem to face. And I think ultimately that's probably what I found the worst with him. He still is, to a certain extent, a ramp up damage dealer. right? He is just realistically a unit that, you know, thrives on ramping up his damage. He also isn't necessarily good against every type of unit. He doesn't have element nullification very easily as a character. And so the thing is, like, when you look at him and, you know, when you're like considering what to do with him, when you're trying to run with him, you have to factor in that he's very squishy. And I think that when I've been using him, trying to run him in my, you know, competitive teams, trying to run him in teams, I find that if you're lacking, you know, 1 or 2, probably you need 2 Zenkai boosts on him, then I feel you can get a little bit more out of him. He's definitely not a unit that on his own can really thrive. I think he needs Zenkai boosts. I would probably say 2 is the magic number. So obviously that's 1 excluding his own. And I think that'll give you like a solid-ish kind of performance from him. He'll still probably be the least tanky unit you have, but he'll be tanky enough that hopefully he won't die in one go. And then you'll be able to kind of like, you know, be able to get some damage out of him. I think that's kind of where I stand on him as a unit. Like, there are situations as well where he can get the damage done. It's not to say that he can't do anything. He definitely can. It's just not as easy as it used to be. And the equip, although helpful, I don't think solves the problems that he has. You know, it's not making him a lot tankier. It's not making him super duper OP. It's not doing a lot of those things. So although it's great, it's just not great enough to make him this OP amazing unit. I think he's fun. I think he is definitely improved by this. I think it brings him to being competitive in the meta. I don't think it brings him to being as dominant as he was. And I think people also need to understand that, although, yeah, I think it's a good equip, and I think he's, you know, back to being competitive, his position as a unit, realistically speaking, was very heavily tied to like being the best unit in the game. I think for like a 6-month period, he just dominated PvP after his release for so long. And, you know, for being one of the most dominant units probably of all time in Legends, I think there was a little bit of an expectation that his plat would bring him up to being super competitive. Ultimately, still a bit too squishy. Ultimately, still a decent damage dealer, but just still needs too much ramp up time. He's alright. He's not going to blow minds. But if you get him now, you get him and you Zenkai him and you apply the equip to him, then I think you'll have a unit that's competitive in the meta, not a dominant force in the meta. And I think that's fine. I think ultimately with such an old Zenkai and plat, if you can get him to even being on the cusp of a, you know, somewhat competitive PvP choice, I think you are winning. Like, I think you're in a good position. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think, you know, about Vegito. Do you have him? I'd love to hear how people are using him. Maybe you've got a different build. Maybe you're running double Zenkai boost. Maybe you're just a better player. Maybe you're just getting more out of him than I am because you're a better player. So that's also a more than fine and very viable option. And I find it's the case a lot of the times. So yeah. But I definitely think, in terms of this Vegito, you know, great unit. Just not as great as he used to be. But that's pretty much going to be it for me. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, bye.